Hey guys, Troy here with the InnerGeekZone.com, and today we're going to take our first look at Path of Exile. This is a hack-and-slash RPG similar to Diablo. It's currently in beta. Once it launches, it will be free to play. It's from a New Zealand developer called Grinding Gear Games. There are currently 6 character classes available in the game, and each align a little differently with the 3 available attributes in the game of Strength, Dexterity, and Intelligence. For example, the Marauder aligns primarily with the Strength attribute, the Witch aligns primarily with the Intelligence attribute, and the Ranger primarily aligns with the Dexterity attribute, while the Duelist is a Strength-Dexterity hybrid, the Templar is a Strength-Intelligence hybrid, and the Shadow is a Dexterity-Intelligence hybrid. Basically what this means is each class is going to start with a different balance of the primary attributes, which contributes to which skills and equipment that you can wear and use. With the way the skill system and passive tree is set up in this game, however, there's going to be quite a bit of flexibility as far as what you can spec into and what skills and equipment you're going to be able to use and how you're going to be able to play your character. So a strength-based Marauder, for example, could potentially spec pretty deep into an intelligence tree and use a lot of castable abilities to pretty decent effect. But we'll get more into the passive skill tree and how the skills in this game work in just a little bit. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at some gameplay, and you're going to start out in what may not be the first time you've ever been washed up on a beach somewhere as an RPG player. After you get over the initial shock of being washed up on a beach with no clue who you are or where you come from, one of the things you're going to notice is how gorgeous this game is to look at. The visuals are very high quality. The world itself, the character models, the enemy models, they're all very well rendered. And there's quite a bit of detail in every visual element of the world that you're now in. Once you select your class and give your character a name, there's no real customization to speak of from character creation. All the characters are gender locked and they all have a base model, and that's what you start with. And that's what you start stacking armor onto to kind of start looking a little different from everybody else. Of course, especially initially, all you're really going to be able to find is the few things that are laying around here on the beach. And it's all big rusted metal buckets and whatnot that you stick on your head, or a big plate of metal that you stick on your chest, and that just kind of gets you through this initial starting area here. Luckily, as you saw, when we very first woke up, we were provided our first dagger, and depending on which class you start out, there'll be a different weapon laying there for you to pick up initially. And it wasn't long before with this class we found a dagger for our offhand, and then we were off killing all the undead that are infesting this beach. Now, of course, with any hack-and-slash action RPG style game, there's going to be lots and lots of mouse clicking and lots of mobs to kill. As you can see, they're not super aggressive here in the starting area, but there are quite a few of them, and it doesn't take but just a few steps in any direction one way or the other to run face first into a group. But that is, of course, okay, because that's exactly what a game like this is all about. We're adventuring around the world, killing just thousands and thousands of mobs of enemies, looting chests, kicking barrels, looking for new loots, and working our way through the world up to the boss, into the next act, up to the next difficulty level, so forth and so on. So you'll spend a few minutes running through the beach area, picking up pieces of random loot here and there, putting together your first little scrubby set of gear. And then you run into the starter zone boss here. His name is Hillock. You'll pick up a little quest that says you need to kill him, and you'll use your new gear to keep you alive and your new weapons to do damage to him. And you'll spend a few minutes, depending on which class you are. You may need to kite him a bit if you're like the Ranger. Other than that, you pretty much just stand toe-to-toe with him if you're a melee class and just take him out and pick up all the loot that he drops for you. From here, you're going to take your newfound arsenal and move into the first questing hub. These hubs are small villages or outposts full of NPCs for you to interact with. From here, you'll be able to turn in quests you've completed, pick up new quests, sell loot items you don't need, as well as buy new gear from merchants, and interact with other players to try to form adventuring groups. As you can see, when you pick up a rare or magical item, you're going to need a scroll of wisdom to identify that item, which is going to show you the stats that that piece of gear has. Of course, every piece of gear you pick up may not be right for you, so you'll use the scroll of wisdom on potential pieces that might have the right stats to check them out and see if it's something you're going to want to keep and use. You'll also notice that your inventory is set up with the items that you have equipped up top, and then you've got the good old inventory Tetris that you're used to in this style of game down there at the bottom. And any items that you're carrying that are not currently equipped are going to have to fit into that little area. Here we're going to sell off some of these items that we're just carrying around that we're not going to need. And you're going to notice there's not an in-game currency. As we add these items into the sell window, there's a barter system in place, and the NPC is offering us other things that we can use to augment existing gear or items in exchange for the items that we're wanting to get rid of. Likewise, when you're looking to buy new gear from an NPC, they're going to use the barter system as well, and you're going to need so many scrolls of wisdom or so many orbs of augmentation or things of that nature in order to purchase new gear from the NPC. When you click on the NPCs that have the exclamation point above their head, meaning they have a quest, you'll just automatically pick up whatever quest they're offering, and it'll be added to your log. As you can see here, this shows you which quest you have available, as well as a little map that kind of shows you, based on where you are, the direction you need to go to get to the area that's going to have the quest, as well as the objectives that you need to complete it. Here we're picking up a quest from this guy, as well as turning in the quest for the Kill Hillock, and as a reward, we're being offered our choice of one of these 3 skill gems. These gems are what actually give your characters the abilities that you use when you press the buttons. Other than the auto attack, any ability that you use or have, you're going to get from one of these gems. These gems can be received as a quest reward from NPCs, such as what just happened. They can randomly drop out in the world out of chests and off of mobs, and they can be purchased from certain NPCs using the barter system. Each of these gems are going to have a minimum attribute stat that you're going to have to reach in order to be able to use them, and they also have to match with the corresponding socket colors of the gear you're putting them in. Now, the color of the gem and the color of the socket that is required to put it in depend kind of upon which attribute that they're required to have in order to use them. The green gems, for example, require certain levels of dexterity in order to be able to use them. Red gems require certain amounts of strength in order to be able to use them. And blue gems, of course, require certain amounts of intelligence to be able to use them. There are quite a few unique ability gems in the game, and any class can use any of the ability gems as long as they have the right color sockets in their gear and they meet the attribute stat requirement of that particular gem. So how does a strength-based marauder pick up enough intelligence to hurl a fireball at his enemies, you might ask? That is where this monstrosity comes into play. This is known as the passive skill tree, and as you can see as I zoom in and out a little bit going through here, this thing is massive. There are tons and tons of passive skills here that do things like increase strength, intelligence, dexterity, increase damage with certain weapons, increase life regeneration, increase mana regeneration, increase survivability, energy shield. Tons and tons of different things can happen inside of this tree. You won't actually get any active abilities from inside this tree. Those all come from the skill gems, but this tree will enhance those abilities as well as your survivability or your damage dealing capability. Now, this tree is the same for every class, allowing any class with a proper number of attribute points to kind of make their way around and pick up different things out of different areas of the tree, not necessarily just their specialized corner of the tree. What keeps the classes unique and individual, at least in the beginning, is that there are 6 different keystones within this tree, and each class starts at a different keystone. Each keystone determines the base starting stats that each class has, as well as kind of sets you off in the direction sort of corresponding with your class, and make you at least work your way part way through that before you really get to branch off and start heading in a different direction. This skill tree is really designed to keep each class unique, and yet leave the flexibility for the player to splash into other aspects of the game and the gameplay if they wish to do so. Now, obviously, this skill tree can be a bit intimidating when you first see it, but the keystone system also keeps it somewhat simplified starting off. When you start out from each keystone, your first few points can only go in one or two directions, and then from there it slowly starts branching off into the other areas, and the first few abilities that you'll be able to pick up are pretty basic in what they do and what they accomplish, and it's going to be hard to really mess anything up within the first few levels. The deeper you get into this tree, however, the more directions there are to go, and the more difficult it becomes to make sure that you're staying on the right track. I would definitely recommend not necessarily just jumping in and spending a point every time you've got it. Save up a few levels and take some time to look through the skill tree and kind of plan out the path that you're going to want to take with your character. You will pick up some respec points here and there, but each respec point only removes 1 point spent from the skill tree. It doesn't wipe the entire skill tree and allow you to start over, so you're going to want to be kind of careful with how you're spending your skill points. Now, we're not going to get into big detail as far as when you start from this keystone, you branch out into this ability or that ability, and you can do this and do that. This is still beta, and this tree has been completely reworked a few different times, and there's no way of telling if this is even going to be the final version of the skill tree that we're going to get when the game officially launches. So there's not really a lot of sense into delving really deep into the details of the abilities right now. Getting back into gameplay now, Path of Exile is spread over a series of acts. Each act consists of several maps within a zone that you have to explore to complete quests, gather items, kill enemies, things of that nature in order to advance. The look and feel of each zone changes as you make your way through the game, as does the type of enemies that you encounter. You'll make your way across beaches, plains, and forests, as well as find yourself delving into dark dungeons and dank caverns. As you make your way through the game, you're going to experience the full range of zones and enemies that you would expect to find in a game like this. Once Path of Exile launches and comes out of beta, it is going to be online and free to play, giving those of us who had a pretty bad experience with Diablo 3 something to scratch the itch that needed to be scratched that we couldn't quite get to because the servers were always down. Throughout the beta process, the game servers as well as the game client itself have proven to be reliable and perform consistently and smoothly. And even if there are a few hiccups at launch, at least you didn't pay $60 for a game that was unplayable for weeks. If you're interested in checking out Path of Exile, there are some beta keys out there. There are a few people giving some away every now and then. You can register at the site, or you can head over to pathofexile.com. Spend as little as $10, get one of the early access packs, get some in-game perks, as well as instant access to the beta. I've had a few friends that I've played Path of Exile with that spent at least $10 to get into the beta, and every one of them absolutely agreed that it was well worth $10 to get in and play the game for a while. The game's performing that well and really impressed even some hardcore Diablo 3 fans. Well, that about wraps it up for our first look at the Path of Exile beta. Just keep in mind this game is still in beta. There's still bound to be some performance issues here and there, and things could change at any moment. As a matter of fact, this entire video could be completely out of date and useless by the time I even get it uploaded. You never know. But as I said, the game's been performing well. The changes have turned more into tweaks here and there than just all-out, flat-out reworks of things. So you're getting a pretty good idea of what this game is going to look like once it does officially launch. It's really awesome to see a game of this quality out there on the free-to-play market, competing head-to-head with the big boys, and giving those of us who aren't necessarily happy with some of the other products out there somewhere else to go, have another option to play, to spend our time in, and just enjoy ourselves. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you do all the typical things. Hit the like button, favorite it, share it with your friends. Those things really help out. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll make sure to read them and respond to you. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter at InnerGeekZone. Check out the blog at theinnergeekzone.com for more. And for the next few weeks, we'll be streaming some Path of Exile, and you can check that out on twitch.tv/theinnergeekzone. So once again, thanks for watching, spread the word, and embrace your inner geek.